Well, hello, everybody. I am Kara Bunde-Dunn, the host of the Energetics podcast. Today, we have international spiritual medium Sarah Renee on the pod. Sarah Renee is a world-renowned medium, a spiritual transformation coach, and a best-selling author. She's completed over 50,000 readings for people, and I just cannot wait to get into all the details with her. So, Sarah Renee, welcome to the podcast.
Yay. Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so happy you're here, and I can't wait to learn a little bit more about you and learn really about your origin story. So, have you always been a medium? Did this come later in life? Tell me everything.
Yeah. So when I was little, my first experiences were pretty frightening. We lived in a house that had like a darker entity there. Like, I don't know if it would be classified, completely as like demonic or entity or whatnot, but there was something dark there that I was terrified of. And so I was really afraid for, most of my early years. And then when I was 5, my grandmother passed away, and she was the first like good spirit that I saw for, in childhood terms. And when I was 5, she lived with us for a little while, and then she had to go to the hospital. She had cancer, and my mom got a call in the middle of the night that she had passed. And I just remember my mom said it like I just would not settle. Like, I was like, she won't leave until I go say goodbye. Like, we have to go to, like, right now. Like, I have to go see her. And so my poor mother drove us at like 3 o'clock in the morning to the hospital, worried that she was gonna, she was like in her grief, obviously, worried that she was gonna traumatize me forever. But I just wouldn't let it go. So we went, and I remember sitting on the hospital bed and talking to my grandmother as she was like sitting up next to me. And then she kind of explained to me that she would still be with me, but not in the same way, but she would visit and it was going to be okay. And she was happy and healthy now, and she could walk. She had been in a wheelchair for many years, before that, or for what felt like years. It might have been months. I was, but and then she left and, crossed over, and I was like, okay, we can go now. Like, grandma's fine. And
did you see her? Like, as a young child, did you recognize that she was in spirit form, or did you kind of see her as if you knew her? What was that like?
I saw her as I knew her, but she looked more vibrant, and she had, because she had lost her hair because of the chemo and whatnot, and radiation treatments. So I remember she had hair, and it wasn't her wig. It was like her real hair. And she looked, I guess, more vibrant, but she looked very, I remember in that experience, it was different than how it is for me now, where it was like I saw her with my human eyes versus my third eye.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask you that. So when you do readings now, you've done 50,000 of them. You've had some practice.
Yeah.
Do you actually see things, or what is the experience like for you when you're channeling or doing readings for people?
So I kind of get a mix almost all at once of like seeing, feeling, knowing. I don't hear too much. It's more of like a telepathic hearing. And so it's like when I bring people through, it feels for me like they step into my field. And so I'll look down and I'll see like their arms, like instead of my arms, or like
You will, like when you look down in your own energetic bubble or field.
But it's like usually it's more in my mind's eye versus like, oh, I'm sitting at my coffee table and I'm in this other body, right? Like, it's more of like in a vision.
Yeah.
I would,
yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. May not make sense to everyone else, but it makes perfect sense to me.
Like you probably like I'm like, no, but I'm like in a vision because it'll be like I'm transported to like the hospital room or the block where they were like wherever it's like they kind of like take me wherever they were.
What they're wanting you to see. I
Yeah.
oftentimes they'll show me where they lived. Like they're showing me a house in the country that's 2 stories. Looks like this, looks like that. It has this big tree. It has a sidewalk. Like that's a very common thing for me for some reason.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I don't get that. I usually get like I'll get like cause of death is like probably the most common like way of validating, and then like their whole person, their personality.
Yeah. So when they show you their cause of death, do they make you feel it? Do they see it? Do you see it like a movie screen, like a scene, like a vision, or how do they typically show that to you?
I see it like from their point of view, like I'm in the vision, and then I feel it in my body.
Interesting.
So,
Like I almost always feel what
hmm.
happened to them. They don't always they'll tell me accident or illness, so they'll show me like left or right. It was an accident or was it an illness. But then like I usually like if they had asphyxia or problems, they'll like make me choke.
Yeah. That's what I'll feel like the tube down my throat, like if they're in a hospital or like, like a pain in like an organ and then my heart, like so kind of I guess the joke of my family is like, well, what ways did you die today?
That's amazing.
How was it? Like
I try to explain to people because it's kind of weird to explain what we do for a living or how it works.
Mhm.
And I try to explain to people the idea of energy. They're manipulating energy, or they're in our energetic field in a way that we can interpret and understand things that maybe you can't yet, but we happen to be able to tap into that energy. Do you agree with that? What do you think about that in terms of, how the mechanics of how we do what we do?
I definitely agree because I feel like, and I usually explain it to people like our souls are energy. So like we live in our body while we're here, and then when the body dies, we go back to this higher vibration, providing we cross over, and which most people do. And then, um, you know, they, I feel like mechanically, it's like I'm plugged in, or like those of us who are mediums are essentially able to exist on this realm and in the higher dimension. And some of us can see the lower dimensions also, like where it's like, to me, I see it or explain it like more like dimensions overlapping and where we're just able to pick up from that other dimension.
And how do you believe like everyone can do that to a certain extent, or most everybody can to a certain extent, or do you think it's something you're innately born with? Like what are your thoughts on that?
Certain people are, I feel like it's a gift that certain people are born with. I feel like everyone can learn to connect. I don't feel like everyone could do readings.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's very fair.
And
Yeah.
that's mainly because I've never had anybody successfully bring through my loved ones, like to the point like that I'm able to do for others, which is always interesting.
You've
Where
never had a reading for yourself?
I've had tons, none that
Oh,
have
okay.
for it. So it's just or like really good like where I felt I guess like a healing from it. I had one that felt pretty accurate, and then I found it was interesting because she said a couple names that were off, but the initials were similar. And I was like, okay, like that's, like it's just how she's interpreting it. Like I was totally, I was like, that makes sense.
Open. Yeah, sure.
Right? Like, and then it was like I got some alert that like some person like researched me or did something on some website, and all the names that she had mentioned were on the search page. And so then I was kind of bummed.
Okay, so this is a real thing. And my husband and I talk about this a lot. He's like, "Well, how do people know?" He's like, I trust you and your ethics and who you are as a person, but some people fake it. Like how do people know, or how can they know who to trust? Like, I think it's kind of an interesting question. And I'm curious what advice you would give to people if they're going to go see an intuitive, a medium, a psychic, any kind of person that does energy work in that space. Like, what advice would you give them?
I always tell people, whoever they're seeing, to ask their person, or their people or their guides, whoever it is that they're wanting to connect with, to give them, like, in their own time, like, to set their own intention and ask them, like, hey, can you bring up this and or this, and to make it things that are personal enough that it will bring through that validation, that somebody can't just pull it out of the sky, right? It's not on Google.
Right.
But to also understand that we all receive messages and interpret messages differently. So, like,
Sure.
I don't get initials or numbers. I get more of the emotions or the feelings,
Yeah.
like the cause of death, like those. But then, like, I share a couple clients with John Edwards, and they're like, he doesn't bring through any of the emotional stuff or the personality, but he brings through the initials and dates and that stuff. So it's like also choosing somebody, maybe asking that question of what do they specialize in or how do they work, so that you can tailor your intentions to maybe how the person that you're choosing gets their information.
Yeah, the other thing I mention is trust your own energy and your own intuitiveness. If something feels off, then it probably is. Or if the information you're getting, even if I'm doing a reading and like something that doesn't fit, don't make it fit. Just let it go.
If it doesn't work for you, like, never put any medium, myself included, like, over your own connection.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way for people to have a sounding board of trust.
Yeah, because I always find the people that are a little bit maybe in the gray area, or even, manipulative or kind of scammer, like, they try to override that trust too, is what I hear from my clients.
Oh, interesting.
So I feel like that's also a good test of seeing how people do they try to force something on you? Like, I know for me, I don't know how you do it, but, like, if I bring up something and it's like the person's like, I don't know, I won't try to force it. I'll just
Same.
ask them to send through the next thing.
I literally say, let's just put it aside and maybe it'll make sense later. And I swear to you, 9 times out of 10, it'll be 20 minutes later and then the thing will make sense. And then we're like, oh my God, this is what they're trying to say about the yellow brick road or whatever. You're like, I get it now. I get it.
Yeah, like, it'll make sense later in the session, or I'll get, like, so often I get emails like 2 weeks later and they're like, oh my gosh, it just came to me, or my mom said, or this person said, like, where somebody else was validated it when they were
Yes.
recording or something.
I heard this from the medium Rebecca Rose, and I don't know if you know her, but she goes, we get spiritual amnesia, and we're like, I don't know. And then later it makes sense.
So, like, it's overwhelming in the moment of trying to figure it all out and all of that. So
yes, totally.
I tell people, I'm like, you shouldn't have to force it to fit.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so have you always done this professionally? What was it like growing up having these abilities? Was it something you talked about freely with your friends, or was it something that was kind of like me and my imaginary friends? What was that like for you growing up?
So I definitely felt like there was something wrong with me.
Aw.
And then because like, middle school and high school, it wasn't so much that I saw dead. It kind of shifted from seeing, dead people, quote unquote, to more of an extreme empath, or like getting flashes. So somebody would touch me, or I'd be in their car and I'd get a flash of something that was happening to them, but like as if it was happening to me. So I was very confused.
Yeah. That had to be scary too, a little bit.
Yeah, like, I was really afraid of it, and I was afraid that I would be found out as the crazy one. And so, I ended up self-medicating with a lot of drugs and alcohol. And so I was like, high school was like a big, time of addiction for me, active addiction. And then when I was 19, I had started a job at Starbucks, and I was kind of like, I was trying to clean up my act. I just quit drinking, gotten clean off drugs. And, somebody referred me to a medium slash astrologer, like just for guidance, like, because I was reading Dr. Dyer and Louis
Yeah.
C.K. and kind of starting my spiritual healing journey, from all of the trauma and addiction and all of that stuff. And so I had really, like, at that point, repressed my abilities so much that I knew I was attuned, I would say, to something that other people weren't, but I didn't know what it was. So I went to her, and she was actually one of the mentors for that medium, Alison Dubois, who that show with Patricia.
Yeah, from the media. Is it called The Medium?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
called The Medium. Yeah. So she was like the real life mentor for her. And I went to her, and she was the first person that was like, told me, like, hey, you have mediumship abilities, and it's in your chart, and it's, your guides are telling me, and you could choose to develop these to help people. And she really helped explain a lot of my experiences, where it was one of those sessions where it was like my whole life made sense.
Mm.
And so then it was at the time that the show The Medium was on, and she worked solving homicides.
Yes.
It was all, I was in Arizona, I grew up in Arizona. The Medium was based there, or I think maybe they said moved it to Texas for the show, but anyhow, she was from Arizona. The mentor, everybody was from Arizona. So I was like, I want to be like her. So I just kind of dove in to try to solve this local homicide that involved kids from my high school. And
This is
totally,
amazing. I'm like leaning into the microphone for those of you that can't see. I'm like, tell me more.
yeah, it was so dark. I had no
Oh.
protection. I mean, like, I just dove it. Like, I just like blindly was like, oh, I can figure this out. Show me what happened. Don't do that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Those of you that are playing around with your abilities and you have them, put yourself in a bubble of light.
Yeah. Have some protection practices. Because I totally freaked myself out, and it was like the energy was so dark. Um and I was too biased because I wasn't super close, but I knew some
Yeah.
people. So I didn't have the clear unbiasedness, but I remember I was still trying to figure it out. I was just obsessed, and like I was like, I will figure this out, because it was just one of those things where it was like somebody was arrested for it, but then they were let go because of lack of evidence, and then they were rearrested, and there were just a lot of stories and a lot of kind of like unclosed loops around it.
Yeah.
So and then there was a black magic element to it as well that I found very interesting. And so um I ended up calling, I got referred to these ladies who, and they had like a cadaver dog and everything. They had a few mediums, missing persons experts, like retired law enforcement, kind of this crew of women that would help with homicides. And so I called them, and they drove by the street where one of the alleged killers lived, and they were like, we won't even turn down that street, that presence is so dark. And
Oh
it wasn't
my.
the ghetto, like it wasn't like a lobby,
Yeah.
it was like in a
Right.
nice neighborhood. It was fine.
Yeah,
But
that's
just to
because
like,
it's the energy that you cannot see, but you can
like
feel.
you wouldn't know, you wouldn't think that there was anything wrong with that street just by your human eye. But they wouldn't even try, and they're like, there's no way that you can tackle this just learning.
Mm.
um And so I ended up, it was kind of interesting. So that just kind of, I just put it all aside and I was like, nope, I don't want to do this. Um, Pushed it all down again. And then a few years later, I ended up kind of going further into my spiritual awakening. I had an experience where I saw Archangel Michael, like, and actually with my human eyes, like in my room.
Amazing. Yeah.
And that was like one of those just miraculous, moments. And
Did that give you some sense of like, okay, I have some very special things within me. I need to honor this. Did it awaken something in you to want to go deeper or open yourself up or expand more?
it it felt in that moment more, I had like a knowing that I was meant to maybe bridge this gap for people,
Yeah.
be some type of a bridge. But it felt like in that immediate moment that it was for my own healing
Yeah.
and recovery. So it was really just this like miracle that I kind of, I guess, received. And then I wanted more. I wanted to learn,
Yeah.
how do I access these archangels more?
Yeah.
And then what would that look like to share that with other people? So I kind of shifted into like, how can I be like, bring through angels and healing and spiritual, healing for people without maybe doing the mediumship.
I think one of the things that you said is really powerful, and it's something I hope every listener caught. But you said, at first it was for my own healing and my own spiritual awakening. And almost every single person I talk to explains that the more that they healed and the more that they surrendered and connected to something bigger than them, the more that their abilities awakened and intensified. Because I think it's like, in some respects, like we teach from our scars. Like we have to learn something first before we can help somebody else learn it, And that was true for me too. It was like 10 years of personal growth and spiritual growth. And then, the abilities really started like cranking on.
Yeah, because like in the beginning, it's like you're not, I mean, I don't want to say you, but for me, I had so much murkiness, right? Just I hadn't cleaned myself up energetically, emotionally, mentally, right? Like, so, and I was just a kid, I was still 18. I mean, like, who has done that much work,
Yeah, I was
right?
going to say, I can't say the same. I was a little older, Sarah.
Okay.
So maybe a little more adult shit to clean up. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like I was just like a hot mess, right? So there would be no way that I could have done readings as clearly or accurately or like on, in a real ethical way, I would say, as,
Sure.
as now. I
Yeah.
needed to go through that healing and those initiations and all of that first.
So, what is your process to prepare to do readings? And then at the end of a reading, like energetically, what do you do to protect yourself or make sure you keep your human energy? Because it's not this type of work is not for the faint of heart energetically.
Don't you? I always tell people that when they're like, I wish I was you. I'm like,
You're like, do you? But
I don't,
do you?
you may wish you were me in this one story. But the reality, not so much. Well, and never wish that you're someone else because everybody has, your own unique gifts.
Yep, you're divinely meant to be exactly who you are.
Exactly. But so I spend a lot of time preparing and recovering. Like I would say about a half an hour before each session, along with I have a whole morning routine that's just separate. But I will, because I learned early on that protection is an important thing. And then, so I always surround myself in God's white light, call on Archangel Michael. I clear my channel of anything that could be blocking me from being a clear and perfect channel. So I do a lot of clearing work, really get my vibration up, call on all of the guides, ask that God and Archangel Michael bring through the people's loved ones or guides, and all messages that are in their highest and best good.
Yeah.
Uh, and then I also, then will envision the client being surrounded in divine white light,
Yeah.
elevated to a higher frequency so that they can get the most out of the session. And so I do, all of that to kind of get ready and ensure, that the reading's going to be in the highest, vibration and divine frequency possible. And then afterwards, I mean, luckily, I feel like people's loved ones, they go with them. They don't want to hang out with me. So, I mean, it's not like people like linger.
Yeah, they don't linger for me, but they do come early.
Yeah.
And I'm like, go away, not yet.
Morning. And they'll be like, what are you going to wear today? What are you doing? I'm like, hold on, it's not your time yet. Or like Dr. Wayne Dyer, I get to bring him through for his family, and they talk about it publicly, so I'm allowed to share.
Love that.
And
what a beautiful energy to bring through. That has to be so fun for you.
Yes. Oh my, I love it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for people that don't know who he is, do you want to give the highlight reel?
Yeah, so he was really like a pioneer of the self-development, like in this whole idea with Louise Hay, one of the original Hay House authors.
Yes.
I
actually use her little power thought cards all the time. I love her.
Yes, I have those somewhere.
Do you have those same deck?
I have those, but I have the Life Loves You.
Yes. Yes.
And,
love it.
Yeah. But those two, like, I feel like their work changed my life. And I never got to meet him in person when he was alive, so getting to bring him through for his family is just like so amazing.
I bet so.
Big, like, vibrant, fun energy. And he'll wake me up like clapping, like, let's go, whoa.
That's awesome.
Always fun.
And you're like, I'm ready. You're ready. Let's do this. Which brings me to an interesting point, which I think is fun for you too. But when you channel very high vibrational people, it's like so much more fun and so easy. I mean, I wouldn't say what we do is easy, but it like flows so effortlessly. And I think it's true for the person you're reading as well. When they're like in a high vibe and they're in the energy of like open and surrender and I'm here versus like skeptical and hesitant and questioning and prove it to me and like all the energy of like no, like it definitely changes the reading. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, oh yeah. Like I feel like we can really go like it's like how would I even say? I want to say go farther, but it's almost like we can cram so much more into
exactly. Yes.
When it's like super high vibe like that, like it's just like the breakthroughs. Like a 1 hour call will have like 20 breakthrough. Where like they're good for a year.
Yeah, I hope you recorded this because you got all the nuggets in one call.
Yeah, or like even if they don't record, it's like on their notes. Like, but I feel like they. And that's another thing, because I have a lot of people that love the recordings, and I love that technology exists. And I do notice sometimes some of my clients who are a little more old school and want to just do it over the phone, take notes, like sometimes they're almost more present.
Oh, totally.
It's because like they know they don't have the recording. Like I feel like sometimes they almost absorb more. I don't know. I mean,
yeah,
like all 100% of the time, but I definitely have noticed that where sometimes it almost feels like, but with that said, those clients are those really high vibrational, like regulars, like where it is just like, it just flows and they're so open.
I love that.
Attached. Because that's what I find is when we get too attached to like, we need to find out this one message or like then we just limit.
Yeah, agreed. I
intention.
always say to people too, like, just trust that whatever is meant for your highest and best good is what will come through because we've set that intention.
Yeah.
So just open your heart up to receiving it because it's
Mhm.
coming to you for a reason, even if you're not sure. And then sometimes people, loved ones on the other side will come through that are not who they thought, and they want to share something. And they're like, I wasn't even very close to my grandpa. I can't believe he's coming through. I'm like, well, he has something he wants to say today.
Yeah. I know, I love that. Like sometimes I'll get people, yeah, like uncles or great grandparents or like one day it was so touching. I this young boy was coming through and my client, she's like trying to place him, and she's like, and it was like the light bulb moment, she's like, oh my gosh, we went to high school together. And he was like, he had died young, I think even before he graduated, but he came through to say that he was bullied by so many people, but she was always nice to him,
Oh, so it meant something to him.
wanted to say thank you, and that he still helps bring some blessings to her because of how good she was to him. And I
Oh,
was like, that's just so beautiful. Like you never know what that kindness really means to people.
that's amazing. And what a thing to channel for her. Like something she maybe couldn't even place or wasn't that significant to her, but recognizing the light and energy that she brings to people.
Yeah, like she was like she was like that was like one of the coolest parts, even though I like, he wasn't even like a best friend or something, like that message really meant a lot to her. And it was kind of like he just popped in and then like her closer relatives, spent most of the time coming in, but it was a really like it ended up being like a quick message, but it held a lot of depth for her. It was
as
really
as much as you can divulge and feel and don't if you can't, but have you had readings for celebrities or celebrities that have come through and you're like have to kind of like check your own ego, like, okay, this is kind of cool, but I can't really, I can't really say it's cool because I know I'm leaning into my ego. If I do, I gotta just kind of like keep it chill.
I did. So I've done some readings for people that I'm not allowed to say, but where
Yeah,
I
I
have
didn't think you
to
could say their
like,
names. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, where I have to keep that private, but where I'm like beforehand, like getting really excited and like, okay, God, like we need to clear everything that I know and all of my excitement so that I can actually be of use to them. You know?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right. You're like,
Mhm.
I want to make sure I'm a clear channel. So any
Yes.
bias or anything I know, I think that's true even when I read people I know.
Oh,
It's so much easier to read a stranger.
oh yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Just kind of like reading ourselves. It's like we can channel and get guide, but like as far as like I don't know about for you, but like I don't see my loved ones on the other side like as clearly or easily as other people's.
That's interesting. For me, I do. Like it started that way where it was just my own family giving me messages. And so now I can feel them sitting on the sidelines when I do downloads from my guardian angels and guides and stuff. And they're kind of like, we're here learning too. It's like we're in the wings listening and learning as in our spiritual form as you are in your human form. So it's like we're our team together.
Yeah, like I like feel them and I get signs, but I'm not. It's like they can't. At least I haven't figured out how to yet. Have them like step into my field and like really send through like that strong of messages is like I can get for my clients.
I
But
think I think that's pretty common. I think I'm an oddball, because most people are like, it's so much easier for me to channel or read someone else other than myself. It's
yeah,
kind of like trying to give yourself therapy. You're kind of like,
like you're
can
just
I can I do
reflection.
this? Yeah, exactly. Um,
Um,
so you
but
also, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say one of the cool stories of what you were asking about the celebrity is that I did have a client bring through it was a male coming in who was kind of in the Hollywood scene way back when, and he brought through Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin, and I was like dying on the inside. I was like I that was like one because I'm huge fans of them. Like it was like okay, they were all like playing a card game, and I was like, this is so cool. And I was like, okay. Not about you. And even the guy, he's like, this isn't for you. You tell her, you know.
You're like, yes, I know. I'm just taking give me 10 seconds. Give me 2 seconds.
Like, but thank you for bringing me here.
Yeah, I know. I have one where I know I will meet the person's partner at some point because when the person passed away, they came through to me and I was like, I can't do anything about it. But someday when I meet your significant other, I will tell them everything you told me. And so I just know someday I will meet them, you know.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, somehow.
you know, I'm like, well, or if I don't, I'll meet them on the other side.
Yeah.
So you talk a lot about celestial codes. What do you mean by that? Can you dive into what that means? And you have courses around this and all sorts of fun stuff. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So, so kind of, I have like a codes class series, if you will, where usually like towards the beginning of the year, I teach a class called Soul Codes, and then around Lionsgate, I usually launch this course Celestial Codes, and then I have Goddess Code that launches in October generally. And so how that came through was this insight, from spirit that our souls come into our body encoded with different frequencies, different potentials, different gifts, different lessons, our soul contracts, with other people, like all of that, like kind of encoded in this light form of our soul that then comes into our body and encodes us on a cellular level. And so celestial codes is a really fun course, and it's fun because it draws very like specific people, and then it repels who is not aligned with that energy. So it's great.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want. You want to be a magnet for what it is, right?
Yeah. Like I tell people, I'm like, I will never like sell you on this because I want it's for you or it's not for you. Like, don't, I'm not going to ever pressure anybody to do anything. Obviously, but it's so so celestial codes is kind of like this, like connecting with what I call the councils of light. And so we've all heard the term, or most of us, like star seeds, where people, it's essentially this theory that some people originate from these star families or, alien families. They always tell me like they don't really love the term alien because like, and I do feel like there are aliens. These beings are more of a higher dimension. And so like how they show me is like, if we start by going into the afterlife, the angelic realm, all the guides and the divine realms, then it's like that opens up to infinite light realms where some of these star systems are in. So again, like kind of this higher dimension where then, so it's like the Pleiadians. I get to see this collective of these, like, they're like 20 feet tall, like gold beings. I call them my
Oh, cool.
like connected with Chiron. And so they'll come through about our core wounds and core wound healing, and then the purpose of that and how to transmute that into, healing, gifts, prosperity, love, how to transmute lower energies into higher energies, essentially. And then like the Syrian Council of Light comes through a lot for me, and I see them like these, like they look like water holding like formation, and then they kind of light up when they communicate. So yeah, so that's
what
like,
a cool gift.
yeah, that was like a really cool, that came years into doing readings when these beings started coming in.
So if you're talking about Chiron, you're talking about like if people are like, okay, I don't know what she's talking about. That's kind of interesting. Do I go to Chat GPT? Do I Google it? What do I do? I don't know any of the things Sarah just said.
You could, I would say like, I mean, for me personally, some of the starseed stuff, like if I Google what is a starseed, right? If I just Google,
Yeah.
because I think I did that at one point because I was like, what are all these people talking about? Like, I don't even know.
Right.
And it was like some of it I relate to, a lot of it I don't, but I'm not as woo woo as one might think. Uh,
Yeah, I'm like that too. Like I'll read it and I'll be like, that doesn't align. That doesn't align. Oh, that aligns. And I literally will like take, like I can energetically feel what's aligned for me or what feels
exactly.
authentic for me.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
it's like, essentially you could Google that, you could take what resonates for you, leave what doesn't. I don't feel I feel like this connection that people call the starseed connection is more of like an alignment with the frequencies versus that you're truly just from there. And because I feel like we're all from the same divine origin.
That's what I think. We're all kind of one.
Yeah, like
Not
that's
kind
what
of one. We all are one.
but
Yeah.
where maybe we've had past lives at those other frequencies, right? So we can tap into that and get the connection, but they're essentially other spirit guides that are associated with these different planets, like the Pleiadians, or, and so a lot of it is like also in astrology. That's
Yeah.
where that's where I learned that Chiron was, associated with our core wounds was through astrology. Then these groups
Yes.
started
Same.
showing up, and I'm like, where are you from? And they were like, Chiron. And I'm like, does Chiron even have, well, like, that's like not, I don't even think it's in the starseed stuff. So that was kind of interesting. I just had to figure it out as I went along.
And I kind of think everybody does, to be honest, because there's a whole universe of information available to people intuitively and intellectually. And I always think you should just go where your interest lies and what feels the most exciting and aligned for you. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so interested in that. Then that would be a good place to start or research or find out what feels right for you. That's what I think anyway.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's like trusting that you're being called because maybe there's a piece of information or an activation, right? Like, I don't know about you,
Yes,
but like in my experience, I'll read something or I'll be called to learn about something and it contains an activation for me.
exactly. That's
And then
that's
it's
so
like
true for me
it
too.
will open up or something new will happen. And then it's like, okay, now I can be done with like the information part of it because I got the energy.
That's right. Now you can just align with it or receive what's meant to be received.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's true for me too. I'm just a very curious person. And so if it doesn't pique my interest and I keep reading it or researching it and I just can't seem to get my head around it or be excited about it, then I just trust that it's not meant for me right now. Like, okay, whatever this is, people are really into, but I'm not as into it. And that's okay. I kind of just let it go. I think people are like, when they start having their spiritual awakenings, they feel like, okay, what am I supposed to do next? It's like, you're over consuming everything under the sun. And I just encourage people to just be in the energy of what you're receiving and enjoy the journey a little bit. So you're not just trying to speed to the next place, if you will.
And then consciously, because then that gives you the space to integrate it and really
Yes.
feel into what's here for me, like because I know for me, like if I love information. I'm a Gemini. I love to learn, I love it all. So, but when I go too much into that, I definitely like it won't land almost. It's like I have all of these thoughts, but they're all just swimming around up here. Where then when I can take some time to just like feel into it and tune in, it's like I integrate the pieces that are for me. So
Yes, that's it.
I always tell people, I'm like,
Totally agree with that.
and then pause and see what it,
And that's a good advice for anything,
yeah,
including your spiritual awakenings.
yep,
you
yeah.
know? It's like when people are spiritually awakening and they're also in like high school and they're like study, take the test, memorize, take the test. And you're like, or really soak in what you're learning. Like you said,
Exactly.
pause. Yeah. Okay, I have some really fun rapid fire questions I'm going to ask you that I ask everybody. So just top of mind, whatever intuitively hits, you just say it, okay?
Right. Okay.
What is your favorite food?
A cheeseburger and fries.
Love it. Sarah, you're a Midwesterner at heart. You don't know it, but you are.
Oh, yes, I am.
Okay, where is your favorite place to travel or you'd like to travel to next that seems exciting?
Ooh, I really want to go to southern France, to Mary Magdalene's cave. I forget the name of the town, but I've really been like called to go connect with that. And then I would love to go see the St. Michael Cathedral
Love
in France
that.
too. Yeah,
How fun. Okay, what's your favorite holiday?
Christmas.
I love that. I asked my Australian friend, who's also a medium, and he was like, "What do you mean by holiday?" I was like, "Oh, I mean like
Oh yeah, because they
holiday."
holiday.
Don't
Like,
call it that. Holiday's vacation. He's like, my favorite vacation. Well, when my
yeah,
wife and kids and I went here, you know.
yeah.
That was funny. Okay, what about your favorite animal or spirit animals that appear for you?
Mhm. I would say the falcon. I really resonate so much that I did a photo shoot with a falcon here through a falconry place, and that was just like I totally like tuned out of the photo shoot because I was just like connecting with this falcon on my arm, and then we had a hawk too that I really just felt like this deep, like I could have just sat there with them for hours.
I bet the photos were awesome because you were attuned to their energy. So it probably felt very like connected, even in the pictures, you could probably tell.
Yeah, yeah, they're really great. They're my favorite, probably my favorite photos
Well,
that I've ever done. And then the black jaguar for and and just even the normal jaguar ever since I was little, they have been like my
why
favorite
does
animal.
everybody say that? That's so intuitive. It must be one of the most intuitive animals because I swear like a third of the mediums say that.
Yeah, it's so funny. I almost feel like they're like protectors
Yes. Like they
for
sit there.
like past
Yeah.
life regressions with them. Like they show up just continually for me. It's so interesting, but it's
Love
cool.
that. What's the favorite thing about what you do for a living?
Um, oh, I would say, I mean, I love seeing the shift in
Hmm.
people when their energy is one way when we start talking, and then it's lighter and brighter at the end. Like, I mean, that just is everything to me. But also, like, right up there on a selfish part of it is what I get to learn from all the different souls I bring through and just all their lifestyles and beliefs and like everything that they experience. I feel like I get to learn so much every day. It's
Yeah,
great.
I feel like I get downloads. I'm like,
Yeah,
wow, like, okay, you guys are,
yeah,
you're paying me to help you and you're helping me.
I know. It's
Yeah,
like,
I love it. But that just means we're always learning and growing. And I love
yes,
that. Okay,
yes.
what advice would you give to individuals that want to strengthen their connection with their guides and team and spirit and they want to intensify their intuition?
I would say really prioritize your healing, your inner
Mhm.
healing, and find, or see who you're drawn to rather, but like to choose like one main guide, angel, um divine figure that you can at least develop a very in-depth connection with them, because then they can kind of serve as your gatekeeper and safely help you open up to others as you progress.
And would you recommend that that is a being different than a loved one who's has passed to the other side? Like a, do you recommend it being like an angel energy or some more divine energy, or could it be a loved one in spirit?
I would say it could be a loved one in spirit if they're at a high enough vibration.
And how would they know that? Book a reading with Sarah.
Yeah. Like book a reading with somebody because I was like, well, how evolved were they, right? Like I have loved ones that I love dearly that weren't very like they're still learning, their soul's still evolving. And then like my grandmother is somebody that I would trust completely. Not to say she was perfect, but I know she's like higher up in the realms over there, but for me it's Archangel Michael is my gatekeeper, but I also know my grandma would never let somebody dark come in. So,
I just think it's helpful though, because I mean, I tell people to do this all the time, whether you work with an intuitive or a medium or not. Like, clear out your chakras every day, do a little meditation, and put yourself in a bubble of light. Call back your energy so you can be balanced and aligned and protect yourself, because it'll make your day better.
oh yeah, the energetic hygiene. And
Yeah,
I always tell
exactly.
people how to like you can tune your energy so that you are the vessel of light in any space you're going into, which means like you don't have to be talking about spirituality, but you're bringing in this high vibration. You're uplifting everybody in this space, whether you say that or not.
So I love that. And you said you tune your energy. Can you like give peeps just a smidge more of what that means? Because it's
So
so good.
I see it like you would imagine this bubble of light around you. Maybe you start with like the bright white, the golden, but you can even play with like a rose quartz pink if you want to attract really loving interactions that day, or a violet or a green, for healing. It's whatever you're drawn to. There's no wrong color. But of and then setting an intention, whether it's something broad like let me be a vessel of divine light, a vessel of divine love, divine joy. And then you could even, if it's like a work meeting, infuse your bubble with like light and creativity and out of the box thinking and solutions and teamwork and excitement, enthusiasm. So you can bring in certain energies to tune your energy field, like thinking of it like it's an instrument, and people will feel it. Like it's a fun thing to play with because you'll notice people respond to you differently.
I literally just posted this. This is why I love that you said this. Your energy introduces you before you even speak. What is your energy saying?
Yeah. Oh, I love
Because
that.
I think it's so true. Like what you just said, you're like, you can put yourself in this space. And then when you come into that room, you're shifting the energetic vibe of the space.
Yeah.
And it can be true the other way too. If you're having a shit day, guess what kind of shit energy you're bringing to everyone else?
Well, like if you've ever left your house in a really bad mood and like people cut you off. I mean, I do live in Southern California, so it's like,
The parking spot's gone.
yeah, like everybody's just rude, flipping you off, like get out of my way versus like going out in a more, sometimes people will still zip in front of you, but then I'll notice like they'll be like, I'm sorry, instead of like F you.
Or for me, that happens, and then their license plate has a message for me, and I was like, "Oh, that's why you cut in
Yeah,
front of
you're
me.
like,
Awesome! Come on in."
yeah. You're like,
Oh, I love that.
perfect.
That's so awesome. Well, people can work with you in lots of different ways. Sarah, would you mind just sharing at a high level the ways in which people can interact and work with you?
Yes, so I still do one-on-one readings over the phone, Zoom. I have very limited in-person sessions available here in San Diego, but mainly phone or Zoom are great. And, so you can book a single session. I also have some high level coaching, like spiritual transformation coaching programs available where I work with clients for 7 months, year containers. And I mean, we just like completely transform it. It's in the title. We transform your life like on all levels. And then I have classes. I have group classes. I usually do like 3 to 4 a year at least. And then like workshops. I also have a membership group. It's $22 a month where I send out weekly guided meditations and a
Mm.
monthly channeled audio. So that's like a good way to just kind of um, dip your toe in, I would say, to my work and my world. And there are discount options, in there and all sorts of pop-up workshops and giveaways and fun things. So
I love it. And 22 is my number for my team in spirit. 2222222222. So I love that. If I ever do a membership, it's also going to be
yeah,
$22 a month. I love it.
yeah,
Love
same
it, love it, love it.
here. It's like, okay.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah. How can people follow you? What's the best way? Obviously, your website, Instagram. Where else are you active?
So I just started a YouTube channel under
Hmm.
Medium Sarah Renee, and that I share kind of more in-depth version of my story, and then client stories and encounters with the other side, and then I post every Monday a weekly energy update. I email it out to my list too, but then I post a video sharing about it on there as well.
Well, I love that because I found you just through the Instagram algorithm, put you in my field. And I was like, oh, I like this lady. I'm totally into her stuff. So I followed you like a creeper for a while. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to reach out to her. This lady's so cool. And I have to trust that she came into my path for a reason. And so I am so glad that you came onto the podcast and we could do this.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me. It was so great.
Okay, well, we'll have to stay in touch and you'll have to keep me updated on all the fun things happening.
Yes, same. You too. All
Thanks,
right.
Sarah.